The United States Congress will vote next week on forcing the release of all the case files in the Jeffery Epstein investigation. It comes hours after Democrats on the committee published emails written by the convicted sex offender that referenced Donald Trump and the photograph of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor with the known Epstein victim, Virginia Giuffre. Well, the emails also appear to show Andrew pleading with Epstein and his accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, to make clear that he was not involved in the allegations against them. The White House has accused Democrats of trying to smear the president. Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor has always strongly denied any wrongdoing. Our reporter Alison Earle has the details.
It's an honor now to sign this incredible bill and get our country working again.
Signing the bill to reopen the US government and end the longest shutdown in US history. President Trump was in a triumphant mood, but unwilling to answer questions on the latest Epstein file release. Donald Trump has never denied being an acquaintance of Jeffrey Epstein, but has always said he knew nothing about the trafficking and abuse of young women, breaking off their relationship years ago. In an email exchange from April 2011, 3 years after Epstein had pled guilty to soliciting prostitution, Epstein wrote to his close friend Ghislaine Maxwell, "I want you to realise that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Virginia spent hours at my house with him." The woman referred to is Virginia Giuffre, who took her own life earlier this year, but had repeatedly said the president was not involved in any wrongdoing and couldn't have been friendlier to her. Democrats on the congressional committee looking into Epstein's crimes are pushing for more material to be released and now have enough support to force a vote.
We're just following the evidence. We want all the evidence out there. We want to know how Jeffrey Epstein conducted this criminal enterprise and who was engaged and involved. And the president's name came up, and it's come up multiple times before, and it's probably going to come up again. And he's the one that is blocking the release of the files. So that's how the president of the United States is involved in this. I'll say that there's no evidence of wrongdoing in these files found in there by the president, but I will say that the president has a lot of files in his possession that he can release tomorrow and have this line of questioning end. That's all he has to do.
On his Truth Social platform, President Trump claimed the Democrats were using the Epstein files to deflect on how badly they've done on the shutdown. The White House described the emails as a fake narrative to slander the president.
This is truly a manufactured hoax by the Democrat Party. For now they're talking about it all of a sudden because President Trump is in the Oval Office. But when Joe Biden was sitting in there, the Democrats never brought this up. This wasn't an issue that they cared about.
The documents also put Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor back in the spotlight. He insisted he didn't recall meeting or taking a photo with Virginia Giuffre, who said she'd been forced to have sex with the former Duke of York 3 times. But in 2011, Epstein wrote, "Yes, she was on my plane, and yes, she had her picture taken with Andrew, as many of my employees have." Members of the House Oversight Committee are now urging Andrew to answer questions about what he knows, adding that he doesn't have to get on a plane, but can testify remotely. The former prince has always denied any wrongdoing, but with a drip feed of even more Epstein files on the horizon, it's clear this is an issue that isn't going away. Alison Earle, BBC News.
Well, I'm joined by Richard Johnson, Senior Lecturer in US Politics and Policy at Queen Mary University of London. Thank you very much for being with us. On the implications for Donald Trump, first of all, of the release of these emails, what do you think the implications are? That there is clearly more pressure on the White House.
I would say that these aren't transformative revelations. We don't hear anything that would be used, I think, as the basis of some kind of criminal proceedings against the president, even if he were, let's say, outside of the White House. Being president of the United States complicates criminal proceedings. I don't think we see anything of that nature. What I think the revelations do add is an additional angle to this story where, for the first time in quite a long time, we've actually heard the words of Jeffrey Epstein himself and his own reflections on his relationship with Donald Trump. And I think that that adds a new dimension to the story.
And what do you take from that? And we should point out that, Caroline Levitt is saying that these emails are being selectively leaked by House Democrats, and the president has consistently denied any wrongdoing at all.
Well, the sequence of events is that initially we saw first three emails that Jeffrey Epstein had been involved in that were released, and then the Republicans on the committee have released many more. 20,000, I think, is the number that's floating around. I think that's basically the strategy from the opponents of the Democrats, the Republicans, President Trump's supporters, is to say that all kinds of different people, including Democratic supporters, were involved in Jeffrey Epstein, and to really expand this story out from the focus on the president, which is, of course, what the Democrats' intention was. I think the content of those emails that were the ones that were initially released did demonstrate that, at least according to Epstein, of course, himself a discredited figure, but according to Epstein, in those private correspondences, he was acknowledging that Donald Trump had spent time with at least one of the known victims of his ring. So I think that to get that from Epstein himself is something that we otherwise wouldn't get, because of course Epstein took his own life, was reported to take his own life, and therefore we would deprive the opportunity of him being brought to trial and cross-examined.
In terms of where this goes now for US lawmakers, how much power do they have to get further releases?
Well, so the issue I think now is the two avenues where we can get more information. One comes out of the House Oversight Committee. So if the committee has additional documents, of course, as I said, quite a few were released overnight. That may be the tranche. There may be more. That can be forced by a vote from the floor of the House of Representatives, using what's called a discharge petition. Normally speaking, in the House of Representatives, the Speaker controls the agenda and he decides what gets voted on, or she. But the House does operate by majority rule, and if you can find an absolute majority of the House members, they can take control of the agenda, and that's what is purported to be likely, is that the Democrats plus a small number of Republicans could force the release of those. The other organization that would have more information would be the Department of Justice, and of course that's a federal executive branch agency under the president, ultimately as the head of the executive branch, but they may have access to information that's under seal from criminal proceedings, and that would be another area where there could be more information.
Okay, Richard Johnson, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.